murdered, all right, and the perpetrator is charged with a double murder. Alabama law doesn't currently stipulate that it has to be X number of weeks, is my understanding. Is that correct?
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sure some sharp-minded lawyers are probably going to want to hop on that now. That's a good point. Because, again, at what point, you see, going back to a bill that you all had here last year called the personhood bill, when you try to define life at the beginning of conception, didn't make any sense. You see, that's basically the same thing that you're talking about. So I am sure, and I'm hoping that some lawyer is listening, because this should come up. There are a lot of inequities in Alabama's law, and there are a lot of things that just really doesn't make any sense at all. When you start trying to prove things going back and forth, they are very contradictory from one thing, and this is one of them. And I'm glad you brought it up. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right.
So it would be my understanding, if I'll make this statement, that currently Alabama does recognize that as a life based on a precedent that we legislated previously in the ability to charge somebody with a double murder if they were to kill a pregnant woman. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, but you see, that's a different circumstances. That woman chose to have that child, and I'm glad you brought it up because it was about choice. The woman who was pregnant was carrying that child, and she chose to carry that child. But I'm going to give you another situation of a young lady who got pregnant and wanted to have the child, had an ectopic pregnancy, could not carry that child, and before we passed it just last year, was the year before last year, an ectopic pregnancy was considered an abortion. No doctor, because the laws in this state would allow the physician, even her own physician who was caring for her, to even abort that child, because the law said you can't, and to carry that child full term, or even try, the child would never make it to full term, would have killed the mother and the child. That was Alabama law just last year. You see, sometimes we as legislators need to be educated. Now, all the women that had an ectopic pregnancy that you cannot carry, that are on the books, was listed as an abortion. So you see, our laws are not right. And all we are saying as women is that value our health, respect our opinions for who we are. I know my body better than you do. I know how I feel, and that's why when you go to the doctor, that's why when you go, the doctor says, how do you feel? He can prescribe some medicine, but medicine doesn't react the same way with everybody. And if I go to the doctor and I say, I get sicker, it's not helping, and I'm just taking the medicine that you told me to take, and he'll say, cut back on it or stop taking it altogether. But sometimes, and doctors will tell you, you've got to be in control of your own health. Because you know your body, you know how you feel, and that's part of what this is all about. It's about the choice of the woman. Now, we want to insist that women have babies in spite of the fact that they are not ready to have them. I noticed also in this same bill that there was a reference to the woman's emotional and psychological condition that you are using. But my thing is, we came up with that same thing doing the probing thing, and I said, well, if you're going to tie a woman down basically, and the woman is saying no, she already knows she's pregnant, so she doesn't need the probe to prove that. And you're going to tie her down and force her. What about the emotional and psychological effect that you're causing to this woman? If she was raped and got pregnant, you're raping her again, and quite frankly, I consider it as rape.
It's true.
The committee felt that that didn't matter. The emotional and psychological condition, a mental state of a woman didn't matter. All of a sudden it matters in this bill. I pointed that out. You see, we have double standards in this state. have double standards when it comes down to women. Some of us, we go back home and we're going home to families. We're going home to wives and we're going home to daughters. We're going home to mothers and grandmothers, sisters. I doubt if those of you who have daughters, who educate your daughter and you give them everything, light of your world, apple of your eye, that you educate your daughter to be a second-class citizen. That you educate your daughter and tell them it's okay to be treated like this. We passed that law. Trust us. We knew what we were doing. We know your body better than you do. No, baby, don't worry about that. You just confused. We know better. When she's saying, I don't feel well. This just doesn't feel right. And the psychological and the emotional impact of this whole thing of being forced to carry a child to full term, when maybe mentally that woman cannot. Now, I can't make that decision for that person. I would have to be that person in their shoes at that time under those circumstances. And maybe under a different set of circumstances, she might have been ready to embark on having a family. But right then, right now, she's not. But we aren't leaving that person with any other choice. We've come a long way from the back alleys and the back rooms and the coat hangers. Because if you leave me with no choice, people will find a way. It's not going to stop abortions as this bill is trying to do. Those with the means, happen in your family, those with the means will go to another state. Those without the means will be relegated to no choice. But again, there's a lot of subjective language in this bill. It also further states on page 4 that because abortion and reproductive health centers do not currently provide the level of personal contact found in physician-patient relationship, that's not what I found. And quite frankly, I do my own homework. I have visited the one in Tuscaloosa and I visited the one in Birmingham. I did not find that. But it says that they didn't provide the level of contact of physician-patient relation and other medical care as necessary for the legislature to mandate the personal presence and participation of the physician in process. I think this bill is going to be ruled unconstitutional, and that's going to be a whole lot of lawsuits. Because first of all, you can't be a dermatologist and perform an abortion. You got to be a licensed physician in that field. And you are denying this doctor, really cutting him off by law, and placing penalties on a hospital and other places because you're saying that cut him off, deny him hospital privileges. Pretty soon, what other profession are we going to pick on next? The foot doctors? I just went to the dentist's office. They have to do anesthesia. You ever had a root canal? Terrible, terrible procedure. Long anesthesia. Some people are out. In a reproductive center for an abortion, let's say the woman's going there for an abortion. She walks in and she walks out. I've gone to certain one-day surgery where they said you have to bring somebody with you to drive.
Bring somebody with you. You're not allowed to drive.
But yet, we want to claim that the reproductive center is less safe.